As we drove home, my contemplative, almost 10-year-old son broke the sacred silence from the back seat of the car, and he said, "It's 6:30, Dad. Only 1.5 more hours until the pain ends." And I was thinking, what is he talking about? Why is a 10-year-old talking about pain? He was referring to the closing of our local polls. But his words captured something far deeper. The collective exhaustion we've all felt during this election season. In that simple observation, my son had named the weight that so many of us carry this morning. And as your pastor, I feel that weight too. And I see how it ripples through our community. Through the eyes of those seeking citizenship, watching the uncertain shape of 2025 unfold. In the quiet disappointment of those who had hoped to serve in a different future. In the fears of our LGBTQ plus children questioning their place in tomorrow's world. And maybe more than anything else, in the frustration of women facing a nation that still struggles to recognize their full humanity and leadership. So many of us this morning are disillusioned, we are hurt, we are angry, we feel sifted. But here is the truth that brings me hope this morning. At least now, we see how genuinely important our work together as a community is. Jesus speaks to this directly in the Gospel of Matthew, 5th chapter. He says this, "You are the salt of the earth. But if the salt loses its saltiness, how will it become salty again? It's good for nothing except to be thrown away and trampled under people's feet. You are the light of the world. A city on top of a hill can't be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a basket. Instead, they put it on top of a lampstand, and it shines on all who are in the house. In the very same way, let your light shine before people, so they can see the good things you do and praise your Father who is in heaven." Did you know that there is still a lot of light in the world this morning? And here's what's remarkable. As we are heading into this Advent season soon, where we're constantly calling Jesus things like the light of the world, the light of creation, the light that illumines every human being. That light that we call the light of the world actually in this passage says that you are the light of the world. That I am the light of the world. That we collectively, together, are the light of the world. There's only one light. And God says that you are that light. Jesus says, you, me, us, all who seek his way of love, mercy, and justice are the light of the world. Last Thursday evening at Cultivating the Heart, Mike shared some familiar words from the French philosopher Albert Camus. And I saw them in a new way, particularly after the election. He wrote, "The only way to deal with an unfree world is to become so absolutely free that your very existence is an act of rebellion." That quote makes me feel awesome. Like I could run through a wall. But it also is kind of a gut punch to me when I read it. Because it forces me to ask myself, Ryan, seriously, Is your very existence an act of rebellion? And on more days than I'd like to acknowledge, my honest answer would be no, it's not. It's not at all. Sometimes I take the easy way. Sometimes I adopt the pace of the herd around me. Sometimes I hold my tongue. Sometimes I don't play the role of the antagonist. And sometimes I should. When what is good in me that isn't rooted in selfishness or wanting to oppress or take advantage, when that which is good in me is trying to get out, I need to do a better job of getting out of the way and letting it out of me. I need to let it shine. I need to be proud of it. Why? Because I truly believe that the good in me is the God in me, and the good in you is the God in you. God calls each and every one of us not to be lights that impose, but lights that illuminate. Not lights that repel people, but lights that beckon people, that invite them into something better. We are called to live and love in more noticeable ways, simply so that people might ask, why do you do that? Where does that come from? Why do you keep doing this stuff? And our answer can simply be because of what I believe. That's why I do the things I do. You know, people ask me all the time if I'm a Christian. And as shocking as this might sound, I never quite know how to answer that question. It's like asking someone if they're an apple. We all know that there's a very, very big difference between a Red Delicious and a Honeycrisp, right? Who's on Team Honeycrisp here? Oh yeah, me too. Who's on Team Red Delicious? I don't understand people's fascination with Red Delicious. So when someone asks me if I'm a Christian, there's a saying I use, I don't know where it came from, but I have never found a better response. They'll say, Ryan, are you a Christian? And I'll say, well, if you want to know if I'm a Christian, ask my children. It's not what we say we are, it's what other people say we are by watching our lives. That's what we are to the rest of the world. And on Wednesday evening, the day after the polls came in, after a day of reflection, my children and I decided to go fishing. They caught 5 fish, I caught 0. And as we were driving home, I turned on the car radio. And on it was the voice of someone expressing their regrets, their opinions about the election, and their hope about the future that we have together. And I recorded the section that we were listening to, and I want to play it for you.
I know many people feel like we are entering a dark time, but for the benefit of us all, I hope that is not the case. But here's the thing, America, if it is, let us fill the sky with the light of a brilliant, brilliant billion of stars. The light of optimism, of faith, of truth, and service. guide us, even in the face of setbacks, toward the extraordinary promise of the United States of America. I thank you all. May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America. I thank you all.
Anybody know who that is? After the broadcast ended, my other contemplative child, my 12-year-old daughter, asked, "Is Kamala Harris a Christian?" And I said, "Yes, I believe that she is. Why do you ask, baby?" And I said, Is it because she sounds like a preacher when she talks?" My daughter said, "Yeah." But then she added this, "I also just really like listening to her voice." And in that simple moment, I heard something profound through the questions that my daughter was asking. My daughter recognized in that speech a feeling that she also feels when she goes to church. A voice that comforts us and calms us, and at the same time dares us to imagine something better. A voice that calls us to build communities that work together toward a common good. It's not the voice of Kamala Harris or any individual, really. It's the voice of God. It doesn't matter who the voice comes through. It doesn't discriminate. It's just looking for vacancies to fill. And we know this voice when we hear it. It pops out of the cacophony around us and gets right into our faces. It speaks calmly. It speaks clearly. It speaks firmly. It's that perfect blend of love and responsibility that we hear in the tones of a parent's voice. And we immediately feel drawn to follow that voice wherever it leads. And this is why we need one another so deeply. Because the voice doesn't just pick one person to speak through. It speaks in little bits and bites through everyone. And as people of faith, we often pride ourselves on hearing this voice beneath the noise of the world around us. But can the world around us hear us? Can they hear me? Shockingly, polling data tells me no, they can't. It appears that I'm far more invisible and far more soft-spoken than I thought I was. Have you come to that conclusion too this morning? Wonderful then. We learned something about ourselves that needed to change. So let's accept the lesson and get back to work. We hold the weight of these times and all that they bring together. Our lives truly can be acts of rebellious hope, grounded in love, expressed in service. And so my prayer today is that as we move forward into 2025, that we would begin to lovingly antagonize, to be more visible, to be more audible, to be more Christ-like. Who is anything but quiet about the things that mattered. Let's pray.